Word on Wealth Radio Network. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future.
Now. Live. Happy Thursday, everybody. This is Gary Quackenbush on the Word on Wealth. Investing your money. The markets are going all over the place. And I always like to have somebody who has a solid foundation, who knows exactly what to do when the markets go up, when the markets go down. I have my good friend on the line with me, Anthony Wright. Anthony, how are you doing today?
Hey, Gary, good to be with you, man. It's always good to be on your program. And I'm having a great day. How are you?
I'm having a great day as well. I appreciate it. Hey, I got a very interesting, I was meeting with a client yesterday, and she was one of our listeners, and she said, hey, she was in an interesting situation because she's dealing with both of her parents have passed away. So now she's dealing with trying to figure out what to do with the money in the estate, because the mom and dad left her some money, and I think there's 3 siblings basically. And then she was saying, okay, so I have an attorney to deal with the trust paperwork. And then I have another attorney who's telling me how to deal with, disability issues. And there's another attorney that's telling me this. Then I have a financial advisor. And she said, and they're all over the place. And she said, I just need to talk to you. She listens to our show quite a bit. And she said, and I know you have that finance guy. I said, you need to listen today, because I will have Anthony Wright with me on the show, and we will talk about money. Okay. So
Excellent.
So what I wanted to do, just so that you listeners know, okay, Anthony Wright, he is an incredible investment advisor. His phone number is 931 retired. Super easy to remember, 931 retired. His big thing is Bible safe investing. Now, we've talked about that quite a bit. That doesn't mean that you have to be, you don't have to have faith-based anything. And Anthony can help anyone with their own safe investing. Okay. So Anthony, what I wanted to do today was specifically, and a lot of this is for my own edification as well. I deal a lot with people who have parents or, family members that have died, and they are inheriting money. So that it's like coming up soon. When we do the trust administration process, there's a lot of legal steps that we have to go through before money is ready to go to beneficiaries. So typically beneficiaries have some warning that they're going to get some money. Okay, so I want to run through with you like an imaginary scenario. And this is not, I know it's imaginary because I'm not using a specific person, but this is not, in my experience, uncommon at all. We have beneficiaries, multiples, and each of them are literally coming into $1 million. Some of it is going to be from sales of real property. Some of it's going to be, sitting in like a Neuberger Berman account or a Schwab account or, Fidelity or any of these retail places. But literally a combination of, once we settle, each of these beneficiaries will be getting $1 million. Now, as you know, Anthony, when people go from having their own retirement account with a couple $100,000 into it to now all of a sudden having another $1 million to do something with, there's a lot of heart palpitation. There's a lot of, just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And that's what I get from a lot of my clients. They're like, Gary, I'm a millionaire. I don't know what to do. And I thought, what a perfect opportunity to get Anthony on and go, Anthony, talk to us about that. These clients that are getting this money, they really just don't know what to do. It's like, do I put it all here? Do I put it all there? I don't know what to do. So I'm throwing it out to you, buddy. Like, what do we do? I have clients that say, I need to talk to somebody. I always give them your number, but what do we do in that situation? You're coming up to $1 million inheritance and you got the next like 6 months to figure out what to do with it.
It's a great question. And I appreciate you asking me and caring enough to ask me. And a lot of times, Gary, the simple solution is just like in the business world, you and I being business owners, businessmen, business people, if you don't manage the business, if you don't run the business, it's going to run you or it'll manage you. So it's kind of the same way when you go from having a couple $100,000 in a personal retirement account to coming into millions. If you don't manage that money, it will manage you. And so the first thing that we've got to do, and first step is to get them with someone like myself that can teach them, here's what we need to do, and here's how we need to manage this money, because we need to grab the bull by the horns and take control of it. If not, it's going to run you. And so, we always want to take a look at what is the end goal? What's the end objective? Do we want to do preservation? Do we want to do income planning with it? Do we want growth? Do we want to be conservative? Those are the types of questions that I'm going to dive into with you. And I'm going to, go deep. I'm going to go 2 or 3 levels deep and try to figure out what's behind your motive. What are you wanting to do with this money? 9 out of 10 times, those beneficiaries tell me that I want to be conservative. I don't want to lose this money. It's my parents, it's my loved one, it's whoever left it to them. And, first of all, I want them to know congratulations that they're receiving it, because in order for them to be named a beneficiary, that means that somebody loved them enough to name them as a beneficiary and cared enough to do that for them. And I'm sure, Gary, in your practice, just like my practice, we've seen lots and lots of families destroyed because they didn't do proper planning and they didn't leave it to the beneficiaries. And that's just absolutely horrible. It ended up in the state of the, hands of the state or the government. And it's just horrible. So the fact that they've done some planning is impressive. And the fact that they are in a position where they're going to inherit $1 million is great, because that means that someone has loved them and left it to them. And now the right step is let's get involved and let's go 2 or 3 layers deep and let's manage this money so that it doesn't manage us.
Okay. I love that. That's, I like to put it in that perspective, because, typically when I'm talking to people, when you come into that much money, it's not, it's not the typical where you're trying to figure out how much can you put away a week and how much can you put away a month and how does it grow, and you're watching it. It's literally this big chunk of money. And I think people tend to get a little panicky. The one thing I would wonder is, like, let's say it is just $1 million, because this is actually several of my clients. They're getting $1 million. Where would you start with that? I mean, I know we're talking about, I believe what you're saying is the kind of the typical, that because people say, well, it's money that my mom and dad put away for their whole life. And so I want to not lose that money. I know that's the response of most people, but is that kind of their knee-jerk reaction, like mom and dad would be conservative? Or is that they just don't know what to do and they don't know if you can, quote, risk the money safely?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, right? The parent that leaves it to them, or the loved one that leaves it to them, they obviously feel obligated, so they don't want to lose the money. That's number one. And number two, it is a knee-jerk reaction as well, because all of a sudden, it's like what you said. Everybody goes, "Oh my goodness, I'm a millionaire. What do I do with it?" And so what we would look for is we would either go very conservative with it and keep it protected so that there would be no risk involved on the principal side. And then we would get a highest return as we could possibly get out of that. Now, obviously, you understand, Gary, and the listeners understand that investing is just simply risk versus reward. Those that take the risk get the reward. And if you don't take any risk, yes, it's going to be safe and it's going to be a safe way to go, but you're going to have very little reward. And when that happens, it's kind of one of those things that you just have to understand, like, am I going to knock it out of the park with a 18, 25% return like the market's going to return? No, you're not. But you're not going to have an 18, 20% loss either. So probably what we would look for would be something that would be safe with the principal. So that principal would be safe. We would probably look for an upside that would be somewhere around 8 to 10% return on their money.
Oh, wow.
And that would be keeping them very safe. Now, if they just called me up and said, Anthony, I don't want to be safe about it. I want to be aggressive about it. I would go
2 minutes
route, but I would put some stop losses in place. Now, very few people that are listening today probably have even heard that term, stop loss. So what a stop loss is, we place a trailing stop loss, and that trails your investments. So let's say the market goes up, 20, 25%, and we're running a 10% stop loss. Then that means that it trails the up gain. So as you go up to 25%, now you've got that 10% gain that moved right up there with you. Now, if the market turns on us and drops, let's say 5%, then it doesn't trigger. But if it drops 10%, it's going to trigger a sale. So you went up 25, the market dropped 10, you're 15 to the good, but then you call me one day and you go, Anthony, I'm in cash. Why am I in cash? I actually had this happen. A client called me earlier in the week and said, hey, I'm in cash. What happened? I said, well, the algorithm triggered you out because we had a stop loss in place and
1 minute
you from losing all of your money. And so they're like, wow, I didn't realize that. So I said, yeah, that's what you pay me to do. You pay me to watch out for you. You pay me to take care of your money. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take care of you. And so you get stopped out and moved to cash, and then the market's falling, dropping like crazy. And people are, not literally, but wanting to jump off the roof, because they see their money going down. But then they call me and they're in panic mode. And then I say, check it, you're in cash.
I love that. Well, see, and I love the way you explain this, the stop loss, the trailing stop loss. That helps a lot. I do want, the next question I want to ask you in just a second, I think, is I want to ask, like, if you have an inheritance, I want to ask kind of an idea on how risky should you be able to get, or how comfortable should you feel with risk if the money is inherited money. So that's coming up next. You got Anthony Wright. His number is 931 retired, 931 retired, 931 retired. Call Anthony. If you got inherited money, get it to Anthony so he can help you out. Keep listening to the show. We're going to talk about how risky should we get with our inheritances here on The Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
Gary, your team at GQ Law are experts at solving IRS and state tax problems. Talk about that.
When people have a tax problem, it tends to really stress them out. And one of the things we've been able to do is figure out how to resolve tax problems. One thing we might be doing is setting up a payment plan or getting a collection delay, maybe getting a determination that the person shouldn't have to pay the taxes at all. We do offers in compromise. We do audit reconsiderations. And one of the things that's a really powerful tool that some people don't recognize is sometimes bankruptcy can be used to actually eliminate taxes when there's certain conditions of the code that are met. So we can do all kinds of things. After we analyze your situation, we can figure out what's available, discuss your options, and figure out which ones to implement, what it's going to cost, how long it's going to take. And we can get people out from under all kinds of tax problems so they can sleep again. That's our goal.
Request your free initial consultation. GQLaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law. 855-500-TRUST. Or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQLaw.com. 855-500-TRUST.
You're live.
Right. So here we are talking to our financial expert, Anthony Wright. He is a professional fiduciary, which means he has the responsibility to act in the best interest of the client. Not do exactly what the client says necessarily, but to act in the best interest of the client. We're talking about inheritances where somebody inherits $1 million. And this is not unheard of. I think in California, where we got real property going crazy, I have a lot of clients that they inherit somewhere around $1 million. So we're just using that number just because it's an easy number to say and fancy number to think about. We're talking about with Anthony about, how conservative to be, what are his suggestions. And the one thing we need to understand is if you call Anthony 931 retired, tell him you heard the show, you heard us talking, and that you wanted a consultation with him to figure out where you are, because he does this risk analysis to figure out what is your risk tolerance? What are you willing to do? What will work for you? Are you willing, where do you want to be with your money? How do you want it to last and all that? And so, Anthony, my question then, it seems like when people, their initial reaction when they inherit money is, oh, wow, I need to protect this because because mom and dad put this money away and I need to protect it. However, it would almost seem like the opposite would be true. And that is, I've put away my own money. I have my own money. This may sound funny and I don't want to be crass, but it's like, I wasn't really planning on mom and dad dying so I could retire. So I'm okay. Now I inherited this money. Would that not then give you kind of more reason to say, this money I wasn't depending on this money, and so I can therefore risk it a little bit more? Is that a fair train of thought?
It is a fair train of thought. And most people, when they go into protect mode, they think, put it under my mattress, bury it in a tin can somewhere, a box, they think, do crazy stuff with it. I mean, I had a lady one time, she brought her cash and it was ice cold.
Oh,
and I
no
said,
way.
where did you get this cash?
No way.
And she said, well, I store it in my freezer. And I said, in your freezer? And she said, yeah, I don't want my children to know where it's at or anybody else to know where it's at. And I said, well, I guess that officially means that's cold, hard cash.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, cash is organic, and I guess that would keep it from spoiling. Oh, that's really funny. Cold hard cash.
So cold hard cash, baby. So usually, when people come to me and they talk about safety, I normally kind of crack up with a smile on my face because I'm expecting cold hard cash right out of the freezer. Or I had a guy one time, he's a local fella, and he asked me to come over to his house, and I got over there and there was a 55-gallon drum. He had all of his money in this 55-gallon drum buried in the ground.
Oh my gosh. And
so
okay, the funny thing about cash. Okay. The funny thing about cash is, I don't know if you noticed, but when people have like bags of cash in like baggies or Ziplocs, it spoils. I mean, it because it's organic and it's not dry. And I had one situation. This was years ago, and I thought it was really, I mean, you always hear about people putting money under the mattress, which is like you just mentioned, and people always chuckle about it. But Anthony, literally, I was dealing with the trust administration, helping a client kind of, take care of his mom's estate after his mom passed away. And he said, because I was going through the asset numbers, I said, and what about cash? And he says, yeah, about $268,500, or it was a number like that. And I said, no, I mean cash, like cash, greenbacks. And he goes, yes, $268,500. I said, in cash? And he said, yes. My mom literally stuck all of her cash under her mattress, between the box spring and the mattress. And she did it for so many years. He said, I couldn't believe. I pulled back the sheets and I went, wow, that mattress is screwed up. It doesn't have a hole in the middle. It has a hump. And he said, I pulled the mattress off and couldn't believe there was literally 6 inches of cash, $268,000. And we're talking ones and fives and 20s. So there is such a thing as putting it on your mattress.
You don't want to go to the other extreme either. Earlier in the week, this week, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she said, what are you going to do for the July 4th holiday? And I was like, oh, I was going to take a match and light my money and watch it burn up and watch it go up in the air and go boom, because every year around the 4th, we invite friends and neighbors and family. And I spend quite a bit of money on fireworks just to kind of, bless the community and be happy, and everybody kind of come together in such a cruel, crazy world. And she goes, well, it sounds fun. That sounds like that's a lot of fun. And I said, well, I'm glad you think lighting my money on fire sounds fun.
That's right.
I'm like, I noticed it's not your money we're setting on fire.
That's right. I love this. Let's do some more.
Yeah, exactly. And she started laughing, and she was like, well, you got me on that one. She said, but it would still be fun to come and watch the fireworks program. So you don't want to see it go up in smoke. You don't want to take a match and light it, but at the same time, you don't want to take it out and stick it under your mattress or in a freezer either. So the proper way to do it, and the proper thing to do is the professional to do it, is take a little bit of risk, because risk is where the reward comes in. So take a little bit of risk and let's gain the reward, but let's not be stupid about it. Let's don't go out there. We call that in the industry, in the investment industry, uncovered. You don't want to go out there uncovered. And that's what happens when you go to some retail joker broker and he has to sell you a product, and then he sticks you in a mutual fund, or he sticks you in some product that you don't need to be in. And you're just out there, so to speak, naked, because you don't have any covering over you. So I would take a little bit of risk, but I would put some cover over it. So in other words, we're going to take the risk, but if in the event that we're wrong, and in the event that the market turns and goes against us, let's be smart and let's put some protection over us, and let's run an 8% stop loss, or let's run a 10% stop loss. Now, the younger you are, the more stop loss I can allow to happen, because historically the market always outperforms the inflation, and it always is going to do really good. And historically, the return from the market is some pretty good sized gains, but you just have to have the intestinal fortitude. You have to have the patience to wait it out. So the younger you are, the more risk I can take with it. So if you inherit $1 million and you're 55 years old, I'm going to do something different with that than if you're 75 years old and you inherit $1 million. Because at 75 years old, if you inherit $1 million, then we're probably going to plan to leave that to the next generation, because, and I'm not trying to be cruel or mean, it's just factual, right? I think the average age right now for a man is 70. Lifespan is I just read this the other day, 78 or 70. It's gone up because of medical science, but still, you're going to treat a 75-year-old different than you're going to treat a 55-year-old. But let's take some risk. Let's get the reward, but let's don't be stupid about it. Let's put some protection around it, and let's keep it safe and protected from downside risk.
Agreed. No, I think that's super important. And I really appreciate the way you explain these things. As you're listening, folks, 931 retired. Just remember Anthony's number, 931 retired, and get this analysis of what your risk level is, your risk tolerance, we call it. Find out some, get some education, risk versus reward. Anthony has a great website, BibleSafeInvesting.com. You can go there, BibleSafeInvesting.com, and that helps you learn a little bit more about Anthony and his amazing team and the stuff he's able to do for people. I think the simplest way to get a hold of Anthony at Retirement Specialty Group is 931 retired, 931 retired. Okay. So still going on the $1 million, would you say, okay, so let's say I have $1 million and I don't know what to do with it, and I call you up and say, Anthony, what do I do with my $1 million? Do you say, well, just send it all to me and I'll tell you what to do? No, you don't. You check out what I want, what my risk tolerance is, and all that. When you're putting investments and stuff together, do you sometimes look at it and say, okay, we're going to get into a certain amount of preferred stock? Do you want stocks that are always paying you money, or do you want stocks that build growth? Is that just all part of this calculation, what you're doing, whether you're in stocks and bonds and whether that pays dividends or not?
That is exactly what we do. We spend a lot of time going through a planning process, a questionnaire. Are we look at some dividend stocks? Are we going to look at some MTNs? There's some really good MTNs out there right now that are paying 8% dividend. So Gary, it's hard to beat an 8% dividend right now and not really have any risks to the principal. So
Wow.
yes, we do. We take a long time and we do a deep diagnostic of your situation, and we'll diagnose where you're at, and then we'll give you an analysis of where we think you need to go, and then we take you through it step by step. It's not just, hey, send us the money and we'll take care of it. No, that's not the way we do things. So we do it step by step, process by process.
Okay, last question
2
then.
minutes.
If then, so let's say somebody inherits money and it's in an account, and let's just say it's in a Schwab account, and couple $100,000 in a Schwab account. They call you up, 931 retired, and you say, here's what we should do. And they say, okay, Anthony, yes, I want you to handle it. Can you grab it from Schwab? Do they have to say, Schwab, send it? Are you the one that kind of makes that transaction happen?
We make the transaction happen. They don't have to do anything except call us. We reach into Schwab and get it and move it right over to us so we can manage it. It's kind of like on the farm where I live. We just open the big cattle gate and let the cows go right over into the next field.
Okay. I love that. And because I know for me, that was kind of a hard thing. Like, oh, I'm going to a new advisor. I don't want to tick the old one off, even though the old one was sucked. Sorry. But it was like, we want to make sure that we can move the money over. And I think some people are like, they don't want to be confrontational. And I think that's important for you guys to know, you listeners. 931 retired, call Anthony, call him now, get on his calendar, 931 retired, let him handle your money. He's on with us every Thursday here on the Word on Wealth. He's absolutely fantastic. We love Anthony being on the show. Anthony, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you next week.
You too. Thanks, Gary.
All right. Take care. All right, everybody, you're here on the Word on Wealth with Anthony Wright and Gary Quackenbush. 931 retired, 931 retired. Hang in there, and we'll be back after the news.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
With SRN News, I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. The Supreme Court has limited how the nation's main anti-air pollution law can be used to reduce carbon dioxide emissions from power plants. Jobs Creators Network President and CEO Alfredo Ortiz tells the Salem Radio Network he was glad the Supreme Court ruled for small business.
I absolutely am. If you look at the other previous decisions where government regulatory overreach was in question, it's all come in favor. And frankly, whether it's greenhouse gas emissions, COVID lockdowns, vaccine mandates, or just a score of other issues, the Biden administration just keeps claiming authority it does not possess.
By a 6-3 vote, conservatives in the majority, the court said the Clean Air Act does not give the EPA broad authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions from power plants. On Wall Street at the close, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 254 points, and NASDAQ off by 149. This is SRN News.
Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're live.
Happy Thursday, everybody. This is Gary Quackenbush on the Word on Wealth. We just had a great session with Anthony Wright. He is partnered with Word on Wealth on this show to provide information regarding your wealth. The purpose of our show is to help you build, protect, and transfer your wealth. The transfer your wealth part is my specialty, and that is estate planning, wills, trusts, power of attorneys, even dealing with trust administration after someone has passed away and you're inheriting money, or you're a successor trustee and trying to do your job. That's what we do, help successor trustees be successful. Okay, the other thing is we have Anthony Wright, and he is our financial professional. He is a financial fiduciary. His number is 931 retired. That is the how to grow your wealth, how to build it. Okay. So we got build, protect, and transfer. Building your wealth, Anthony Wright. Protecting your wealth, that's me. That's John Burrows, who's on regularly on Wednesdays and talks about your homes, your mortgages, your money, anything related to your house and the money. We even talk about rentals. We have professional landlords, professional property managers on the show to help you understand all this stuff, all these different aspects of your money, not just the stocks and bonds and mutual funds. All right. So I want to just do a quick review, a quick recap. And when I talk to Anthony, I'm always very excited about having somebody that's willing to put in the time to call us. Anthony has his own radio show, and his radio show is called Bible Safe Investing. Bible, like the book, BibleSafeInvesting.com. One of his specialties is he will go and review your financial portfolio and figure out whether the investments are really where you want them to be. Because if you're in a certain mutual fund or you have certain stocks, what those companies do with your money, those companies that you're invested in, they may or may not be doing what you would prefer them to be doing with your money. Okay. Some people say it a lot harder than that, but some companies that if you have stocks in a mutual fund, you say, oh my gosh, this mutual fund is doing good. I'm earning, 10, 12% on the mutual fund. And you start to dig through and see what the mutual fund supports. Sometimes it will support causes that would really make you not feel good. And so that's what Bible Safe Investing, they look at your portfolio, and with publicly available information on the different organizations that you're invested in, they figure out which companies are actually doing things that would make a faith-based person happy, and which would make them very upset that they were supporting. So that's what Anthony does. He'll help you scrub your portfolio. He'll help you set up your portfolio. He'll do it based on the information that you give to him and the analysis that you have, and the consultation you get, which from listeners of the show, 931 retired, RETIRED, 931 retired. Tell him you listened to this show and you wanted to get a consultation with Anthony, and you'll get one. Okay. So we talked about money and inheriting money and managing it, or it will manage you. And that is 100%. I just, that's just the way it is. You've got to find a financial advisor and then figure out whether you want to preserve the money, make it grow. Are you willing to take some risk, or are you going to be ultra conservative? Keeping in mind, you don't have to put all of your money with Anthony. If you're inheriting $500,000 or $100,000, you don't have to put it all with one guy or another. I mean, that would be fine if you trust the person, but there's nothing wrong with trusting them with some of your money and seeing how it goes. Okay. On to the transfer your wealth portion. I am finding each day that I interview with clients on their, how their estates are handled, how their money is handled, that many of the things that we talk about on this show and many things that people talk about at the water cooler, we're getting the terminology wrong. We're not understanding what we're doing. And is that a problem? I think it's a problem if you don't understand what we're talking about. I think it's a problem if we're kind of getting our terminology messed up. So I want to help with that a little bit today, a little bit more on some definitions. I think an estate plan is, first of all, let's start out with the definition of estate, because I've had people say, Gary, I don't need an estate plan. I have no estate to plan. And, they have 2 children. This was a particular family I was talking to. They have 2 kids. They rent. They have a small 401k because he's got a great job. He's just starting to put money away in his 401k, and really don't have a lot of cash. They've got, $50,000 in investments and $50,000 in savings. What do? Well, that's an estate. If that person died and left his wife and children, with this estate they have right now, you're right, it's not enough money. Wife would have to go and be the sole breadwinner of the family. However, part of your estate plan might be to do something more responsible than that, and that is get life insurance. When you're a young parent, if you especially non-smoker, if you're pretty conservative, it's really, really cheap to get life insurance. I mean, and I'm not a life insurance salesman, I'm an attorney. Okay. But life insurance, if you get term insurance and you're young, you're in your 20s or 30s, it's really, really cheap to get $1 million of coverage. So do you have an estate? Well, while you're alive, if you have $1 million of coverage, for example, while you're alive, you don't have an estate. I mean, you have enough to get by because that's what you're doing. But if you passed away, your estate will be big enough to take care of your wife and kids or your husband and kids. So life insurance is one way to have your estate. So let's say then you decided you don't have a house, but you got life insurance and you go and get $1 million policy and it's going to cost you, I mean, literally it's not, I'm surprised how inexpensive life insurance is, but you get life insurance policy and that's going to be your estate. Because what is life insurance for? It is to cover for you when you're gone. You don't want to just plop it down and say, okay, it's going to go to my spouse. You want to have a trust set up so that it would take care of your minor children. And that way, if you die and your children are still minors, that life insurance pays into the trust. The trustee that you have assigned to manage that money for your children, for your surviving children, will have the access to that money, whatever it is, $500,000, $1 million. That is now in your trust because you designated that the beneficiary, that money by beneficiary designation pours into your trust. Okay, technically it's the trustee of your trust, but that's something that's easy to do. You pass away, money goes into your trust. If you have a surviving spouse, he or she has access to that money because they have access to the trust. If you and your spouse both die, the children will have access through the successor trustee. Okay, that makes sense. So life insurance beneficiary should be the trust, so that way when you die, either of you or both of you, then that money is available to take care of kids. And you don't want the kids to just get it at 18. Okay, that's what would happen if you said, okay, my beneficiary are my children. Well, you and your wife both pass away. You and your husband both pass away. And now that money is sitting there available for the kids and they can't use it until they're 18. And when they're 18, they get it all. So they'll be a senior in high school, probably. Maybe they'll be done with high school, but maybe not. But then they'll have all this money. And how long will it last? It's not going to last as long as it would if you had it in a trust with a financially responsible, financially mature individual acting as your successor trustee. So your estate can consist of life insurance. Okay, if you do have a house, absolutely need to have a trust in the state of California, because if your house is worth more than $64,000 in the state of California, 64,000, that's it, 64000. Most all real property in California is worth more than 64,000. So if you have a house, you get a trust, even if there's a mortgage on the house. Okay, let's say you have a $600,000 house with a $500,000 mortgage. That's even more important having in a trust, because that mortgage is going to have to be paid. It's going to have to be handled. And after you pass away, it's easier to do it through the trust. Okay. Even though there's not a lot of equity, you still need to do that, because if you go into probate because you didn't have a trust, then the court is going to require that that loan be paid, which means the house is probably going to have to be sold, which means, what did you do? Okay. Is your spouse going to be able to stay in the property and manage that? Or if you guys both pass away, what happens with the house? Okay. So trusts are the way to go. They're not that expensive. Most of my clients say, well, that wasn't as expensive as I thought, and it didn't cost as much as I thought. So your estate plan, you need to have some stuff, and the stuff may very well be a life insurance proceeds. Okay. It may be a life insurance plan, but you need a will and a trust. Okay. Why both? Because in the will, that's where you designate guardian of minor children. The will also says anything that is not in your trust gets put into the trust by a pour over provision. So you have a pour over will, guardian designation. I'm giving you a checklist, living trust. Along with that living trust, you need things to support it. You need a certification of trust, or a trust certificate that helps you open bank accounts and get accounts and everything in the name of the trust. Then you're going to assign your personal property, household goods, personal property. Then you're going to do a comprehensive transfer form, and that's anything tangible, intangible, personal property, real property, cars, all those things get comprehensively transferred to the trust because we want everything in that trust. Okay. House deed. We're going to transfer the house to the trust. You may have a timeshare deed or an assignment to transfer in. You may want stocks transferred in. You own maybe you own a company that's a corporation. that stock of that corporation should not be owned by you. That would be owned by your living trust. Yes. So you would transfer your stock from you to the trustee of your living trust. Okay. LLC membership interest. Sole proprietor. If you have a sole proprietor business, you're sole proprietor doing whatever you do, whether it's construction or selling things or, representing people, that sole proprietorship can be transferred to the trust, and that's done in a particular way. Those are all things that you're going to need to have a complete estate plan, also retain a digital copy. So it is now on the web somewhere that you can transfer to people. So that's what I like to do. Email myself a digital copy of my entire estate plan so that I have it available. And if somebody needs it, I can then just find it in my email because I email it to myself and I can do the transfer. That's another way to do it. Okay. So there's a lot of documents with an estate plan. If you do it yourself, you may not have all these documents because you didn't realize you need them. This is one of those things with estate planning. Well, I will tell you and help you figure out what you need. All right. Okay. Coming up next, don't wait too late. And that's a problem that I see that I want to help you resolve. Do not wait too late to get this stuff done. We're going to talk about that coming up next here on The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
We're with Craig Smith of Borderland, your local source for cybersecurity. So many employees work from home today. How does that jeopardize local companies?
So employees are using personal devices. They have personal email, and that's harder to control. That all means that your company and your computers are at greater risk of cyber attack. Why? Email phishing attacks often look legitimate. Something as simple as an Amazon shipping notice comes in and then quietly infects, multiplies, and takes data, copies passwords, and puts you and your clients at risk.
So how can you help?
Hackers only need one employee to make a mistake. We come alongside you and help protect your small business and train your employees so that they can comply with insurance requirements.
Reach out to Borderland right now at 855-945-8100. 855-945-8100. Get a free consultation and a quick, affordable quote on software services that help protect you and your small business and complies with insurance requirements. That's Borderland, 855-945-8100.
We look forward to protecting you.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQLaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
You're live.
Okay, we told you we're going to talk about waiting too long. And this is, I'm not trying to harangue you or harass you. Just remember, as an attorney, my job is to tell you what I think is in your best interest. I do have to act as a fiduciary, and that's what I am doing. So a situation that I'm just seeing quite a bit, which is sometimes really disappointing because it's difficult to deal with, and that is people waiting too late. A friend of mine called and said, "Hey, I want to make some changes to my estate plan, and we want to change who's going to be the successor trustee, and we also want to give money to grandchildren." And when I asked about how her husband was doing, she said, "Well, he's not doing very well. That's why we want to get this done. He's been really sick." And I asked if I could talk to him. She says, "No, he's really not in any condition to talk to anybody." So I know they wanted to make this change. I know they wanted to get money to their grandchildren, and I know they wanted to switch out their successor trustee because the person that they named, they kind of fell out of grace with and don't really want to have them do it. Well, her husband was incapacitated. I mean, just too far gone to make that decision. Because what I have to do as an attorney is meet with the people regarding their estate plan and talk to them and see if they understand what's going on. Do you know what assets do you have? So I want them to list their assets and tell me what they have and tell me what they want to do with them and who they want to get money. It's not just a matter of one spouse convincing the other. Okay, nod your head and say yes. It's not that. They have to be independent, because if I'm going to do the work, I want to make sure that they are making their decisions independent of each other, because I want them to both be competent, because that's the requirement. So waiting too long is just, it's a tough thing. I mean, even waiting for emergency, I mean, we have done things where we literally rushed down to the hospital during the pandemic. It was a nightmare for an estate planning attorney. During the pandemic, we had people that, had COVID and they were really, really suffering. And we figured they probably didn't have long to live. They were completely competent. They knew exactly what they're doing. They knew exactly what they needed. They knew their property, the whole thing, but they were in a COVID unit. Basically their lungs were giving out and they were getting ready to expire. So we had to do some estate plans in those situations, which are just horribly scary. And it's just, there's just kind of this general sense of panic around trying to get stuff done while somebody is in the process of passing away. The pandemic really taught a lot of us to get things done. Now we're coming out of the pandemic. People are starting to relax a little bit and go, oh, good. Well, I guess I'm not going to die. But please don't do that. Get your estate planning done. What I'm doing at GQ Law is through the month of July, because that's going to start soon. If you get an appointment with me and get your estate plan done during the month of July, I will knock off 10% for radio listeners. You have to be a radio listener. You have to tell me you heard the show, and I will give you 10% off. So that's going to save you. That should motivate you. I don't typically do, discounts, but I'm going to do it during the summer because I'm just feeling like people really need to get this stuff done and they're not paying enough attention. And I want to make that available. So you'll feel good about it. You save some money. And then we'll work with you on a 10% discount off of your estate planning documents if you get a complete estate plan. So you're going to come in and get a complete estate plan, which is the will, the trust, the power of attorney, the stuff we've been mentioning earlier in the show. We'll give you 10% off of your complete estate plan if you call 855-500-TRUST, 855-500-TRUST. And we'll give you you have to mention this and we get the 10% discount, because this is the only place I'm mentioning it. 10%, 855-500-TRUST. Call now, talk to Jana, get your discount. Okay. Another issue that is really kind of a scary one is somebody gets a trust, they get a will, or they do it themselves and they never put anything in it. So they're in a situation where they're reviewing things because somebody's very sick. In like, for example, wife is just really sick and we're trying to get property transferred to the trust. And I talk to wife and has no idea who I am, what we're doing, what property she has. And so I can't have her sign a deed. My notary won't do it. Nobody should do it because she's incompetent. She won't know what documents she's signing. So it was too late. We couldn't even put property into the trust. So we had to then be at risk that would it be okay for her to pass and then the husband to transfer property to the trust? Ultimately, that's what happened. But I don't like that. That makes me really nervous that you have a trust and then there's nothing in it. I'd rather find out sooner than later. For our listeners, I will give a free trust review. That means you come in and these are trusts. Not one that you just did yourself in the last 6 months or went to another attorney or something, but I will review your trust. And the idea is to figure out, is your stuff in the trust? Let's look up your deeds. Let's figure out, is your life insurance beneficiary? Does it say trust? Is your bank account in the trust? Let's review that stuff so that you can be prepared. So let's either get your trust and estate plan set up, or let's make sure that what you have set up is going to do the job, because it's up to date laws. The laws have changed a lot since the last 5 years. And then are your assets properly put into the trust so that we don't end up in probate, even with a trust, because that does happen. So don't wait too late. Get your trust, get it in order, get your property put in it. Call my office to get that done, 855-500-TRUST. 855-500-TRUST. Remember, just for the month of July, that obviously starts tomorrow. Call us, 855-500-TRUST, and get in here and get your estate plan. I will give you a discount if you get a complete estate plan. That means we're doing the whole job for you. I'll give you 10% if you mention this show, if you're my listener. And you can share with friends. Tell them to tell me they're a radio listener too, but that's 10% off if you call us at 855-500-TRUST. All right, tomorrow we're going to be back. Tomorrow is, you're going to call in and tell me what your favorite charity or your favorite nonprofit is. That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow during the show. Same time, same station. Call us up tomorrow and tell us about your favorite charity or your favorite nonprofit. It's going to be all day tomorrow here on The Word on Wealth. This is Gary Quackenbush signing off. It's a pleasure to have you along. Noah and I will be back tomorrow. Same time, same station. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Talk to you later.
Tell a friend about The Word on Wealth, featured since 1995 with financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help you preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on The Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs. The opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the views of Salem Media Group or its sponsors. The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush is sponsored by